My name is Jeff Miller, christianman.me, and I want to talk to you today about why you are not making very much money as a Christian. Even if you think that you are, I would say that you're not making nearly as much as you could, maybe even as you should, because you have a faulty, contradictory mindset about money. When I'm finished with this, you're going to think very differently about money. And I'm going to use my personal story today to get you from point A to point Z in this. My hope is that after you watch this, you'll be able to make 3, 4, 5, 10 times more money. It's not just about money. Life's not all about money, but this video is mostly about money and the mindset around making it if you are a Christian. So, I was raised in a middle-class family that did not think much about building wealth. They thought about spending money and they paid their bills, but we didn't think about building wealth. As a kid, I did not do very well at delaying gratification. And as a teenager and a young man, I was just not good at this. I spent everything I had. If I could get an advance on my allowance, I would get it, therefore learning to go into debt. As soon as I could possibly get credit, thankfully it wasn't quite as easy in the early 90s to get credit when I became a young man, but I did get some, and it hurt me. I was able to get credit and I was not able to deal with having credit. I racked up a whole bunch of debt that way. And then little by little started to get better with that. Luckily, I was married to a woman who was and was born frugal. So if it wasn't for that, if we were both like me, we would be in huge trouble. Sometime in our mid-20s, we became Christians. We believed in Jesus. We believed that he died for us on the cross and saved us, and we gave him our lives, and we began to live for him. And doing so caused us to curb our spending a little bit, at least the way that we had been. It didn't change a lot. We were still deeply in debt, but we did stop accruing debt. We had gone to school, we had gone to grad school, we had taken out lots of loans, we had had credit cards, we'd had car loans, all those things. So eventually I became a pastor and a church planter, and I had a day job as an adjunct voice professor, and my wife was staying home as we were beginning to have children. We would eventually have 5 kids, but at the time, at one point we had 2 kids. We're not making very much money, deeply in debt, not getting more debt, but just barely making it. We got a coupon in the mail for portraits for our kids. I want to take a quick pause here and ask you to subscribe to this channel and to like it. I'm going to have so much for you, not only in this video, but I have a world of information that I want to unfold on YouTube, and I would love for you to be able to benefit from it, so you wouldn't have to learn things the hard way like I did. The whole point of having wisdom that came through pain is so that you can share it, and I want to be able to do that. So please subscribe and like, and I'll keep going. So we went to this place. It was called Portrait Innovations. It was a coupon for $15 for a sitting, and you were going to have some small package of prints when everything was done. And I had 2 kids at the time, and they were like age 6 and 3 or something like that. So we went, they sat, and they took a ton of pictures, like 50 or 100 different poses. And then they had this great big screen that they put all the pictures on. And they were beautiful. They were cute. It was just every single one of the pictures, I wanted them. We wanted them. I remember especially one of them where they were laying on the ground looking at each other and holding hands. They had taken a picture from that angle. and they just look so sweet, and I wanted that picture. But we only had that $15 package. So if you want to add a picture, or if you want to add this one and that one, it could be $60, $100, $150. My wife and I were looking and going, oh, we really want these pictures. I asked the person working there and said, can I come back later and get them if we don't get them today? She said, no. As soon as you say you don't want them, they're gonna be deleted from the hard drive. You're never gonna have another chance to buy these pictures of your kids. So for a minute there, we said, okay, I guess we'll do it. But then we were talking about it, and something just kind of came over me like, no, this is what we would normally do. This is how we are staying in debt. This is how we are not doing well with money. We say we're going to do one thing, and then we're tempted to do another. And so we decided, somehow by the grace of God, we won't get the extra pictures. We'll just get the $15 package. And I remember she clicked delete, and all those beautiful pictures of my sweet, dear children vanished forever. And you know what I felt? Like the worst dad in the world. I just felt low. I felt bad. I knew somehow this is my fault. I hadn't chosen a career that was going to pay well, which is fine, but I also was deeply in debt. So fast forward a few hours, my wife and I were blessed every week in those days to have a date night on Friday nights. Her mom came over and watched our kids, and we would go on a date. And in our small town, there's not that much to do. But we would generally end up, after having dinner somewhere, we would end up at Barnes & Noble. And so we were at Barnes & Noble. Actually, no, we were at Borders. Got to be accurate. We were at Borders. Remember those? And we were walking around. I was walking around. I think she was sitting in the cafe looking at a magazine or something. And I was just walking around browsing the books. And I saw Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. I had never heard of Dave Ramsey before. I had never heard of the Total Money Makeover before. But in the state that I was in when it came to money, I was interested. I need a total money makeover. So I took Dave's book and I sat down, and I remember at the bottom of every page, this was brilliant, live like no one else so that later you can live like no one else. I sat there and devoured that book, showed it to my wife, and I was ready. We were, as Dave would say, we were sick and tired of being sick and tired. So we went about implementing his baby step strategy. And I'll just give a brief overview of it. This was an important part of our journey, but it's not the end point. You may know all this already. You may be very familiar with Dave and his baby step strategy. The first one, save up $1,000 emergency fund. The second step, run the debt snowball, which was pay off your smallest debt and then snowball the payment that you're making into the payment or the next largest debt and the next largest, the next largest. And it's a snowball. And then find ways to get more money, sell stuff, take extra work. I have a master's degree in voice and opera, and so I took extra work as a voice teacher. And I think we sold a car, and then we decided to move in with my wife's mom and rent out our house. Long story short, in about 18 months, we had paid off $60,000 in debt. And then, the baby steps go on. You start saving 15%. You start saving for college. You can go look that up. The point is, we got out of debt. But we couldn't go beyond that to start building wealth. And the reason for that was we were Christians. We had given our lives to Jesus, and we believed that there was something really good and godly about paying off debt, but we couldn't get there when it came to building wealth. And so I got very interested in investment. It seemed like good stewardship. I now had all this extra cash because of running that system. I think one of those things was getting on a budget as well, and we were doing that well. And I would accumulate money. So for me, this was an enormous amount of money I could accumulate by saving and investing. I would save up about $20,000, and then I would start feeling very, very guilty about it. Who am I to be saving money like this? We would do a building campaign, and I would give all my retirement savings. This wasn't even my retirement savings though. I would just feel like, I need to give this to the church, and so that I would give it away. And then a couple of years later, I would have amassed another $20,000, and then I would give it away again to the church, which was great. I'm glad. That's where we were, and I know and I believe that you store up treasure in heaven. That's all good, no problem. But that kind of shows you this sort of stuck mindset when it comes to being a Christian and accumulating wealth. There's just so much in the Bible that makes it seem like it's not good to do that. You have the rich young ruler who had to give everything he had. You have Jesus saying things like, don't store up treasure in heaven. You got the guy that built the bigger barns. So interpreting that can be very, very difficult. Well, about 5 years ago, now here's where we're going to make a giant leap forward, because most people find ways, if they want to build wealth, Christians will usually build wealth by saying, I'm going to do this so that I can give. And I think that's part of Dave Ramsey's plan. Live and give like no one else, because you have been able to build all this wealth. Giving is awesome. Giving is amazing. But if all God cares about is giving, then just give. Don't worry about building wealth. So there must be something more. There must be something else to understand about this. And this really is the key. So about 5 years ago, I was not in debt. We were saving well for retirement, but I was in a position where I had found myself as a pastor in a church that was in a network of churches that had become kind of cultish. And the way that it had become kind of cultish is that it had a model of leadership that a pastor or a church leader was a leader over the members. So any Christian would have a leader over him or her who heard from God for them, who you would give your conscience over to. They would tell you what to do. They would tell you what God was saying for your life. You wouldn't make any kind of move without going to this leader and saying, hey, what do you think? They would then consider that according to what they understand about the Bible, but 9 times out of 10 also according to what their agenda is for you. And they would tell you what you should do. They would tell you what God wants you to do. I came to the question, if 99 or 999 times out of 1,000, I'm inclined to obey or think whatever you think or do whatever you say I should do. But if 1 time out of 1,000, my conscience didn't allow it, and I had a particular issue that pertained to my children, they were telling me what to do as a parent, and my conscience wasn't okay with what they were saying. And I thought, okay, I need to obey my conscience. Not that my conscience is always right, but that if I ever don't obey my conscience, then I might lose it. If I give my conscience to another man, and I didn't have any problem with the leaders in our church, in our network, I just thought, I don't think we're supposed to live that way as human beings. I think you're supposed to maintain your conscience, because if you lose it, I had read about communism, I had read about cults, I had read about Nazism, any kind of totalitarianism, any situation where some people come along and say, we're going to do the thinking for you, or we're going to hear from God for you, bad things end up happening. And I did not want that to be the case. I didn't want us to all get used to doing what one person said, and then somebody new takes charge who has us all drinking the Kool-Aid, if you know what I mean. So once I started to wrestle with that, I started to wrestle with the idea of autonomy and individuality, individualism, which is a lot of times considered a dirty word in church, because we're a herd, we're kind of a collective as a group assembled. And so I had to really think that through and really wrestle that through with the Bible. And the conclusion I came to ultimately was that we are made in the image of God as individuals. We are made alone, then we are saved alone for the sins that we committed alone, and then we're going to go to the judgment someday and be judged alone. We're going to be with and in Christ, but nobody else. Furthermore, God created us in His image and gave us a cultural mandate in Genesis 1 to produce, multiply, subdue the earth, and rule over it. He gave us reason, which means He gave us the ability to make choices and decide between right and wrong. He gave us the ability with a brain to listen to God when He says, hey, I'm holding out for you today life and death. You must choose. So I'm a man, I'm an individual, I have a thinking brain. Nobody else can think for me. All they can do is tell me their opinion, and then I have to consider it and see whether or not I truly believe it. Do I really think that there's evidence for what they're saying? Do I think that the right thing is to do what they say? And then if it is, then you should do it. If it's not, then you're responsible for that judgment. So then I understood we've been given the principle of stewardship. Jesus talks about a master who goes away and he gives each of his servants a certain number of cash, basically, or talents or minas, depending on which parable it is. But we'll just say cash. So one guy gets $10, one guy gets 5, one guy gets 2. The master says, I'm going away. You do business with this money. I'll be back to see how you did. He comes back. The guy with 10 comes back with 10 more. He has 20 now. He says, look, I did business. I multiplied your money. He says, well done. And he gives him greater responsibility. I think in one of them he says, you're going to be in charge of 10 cities. The guy that he had given 5 to comes back and says, I made 5. He says, well done. You also doubled your money. He didn't start with as much, but he doubled his money. You're going to be in charge of 5 cities. The guy with the 2 comes and says, I didn't do anything with this, but here's your $2. I buried it in the yard. I was afraid to do business. I was afraid to do anything with what you gave me. And he said, you're wicked, lazy, cast this guy out. Whoever is given a charge, the Bible says, must prove faithful. Whatever God gives us, we're supposed to do something with it. We're supposed to prove faithful. And He calls us to life. He calls us to live. So we glorify God by living for Him. And for a human, to live is to create, to think, it's to build, it's to pursue life. And part of the way that you do that is to build wealth, because you build yourself into someone who can offer value to the world. So we're creators. I'm a creator. I'm called to multiply all sorts of things in my life, and only one of those is money, but one of those is money. There is a time when you look at your values and say, I have enough money, I want to put my effort onto something else. But don't ever be ashamed of growing wealth. Don't ever be ashamed of pursuing business. Don't ever be ashamed of learning to invest. Don't ever be ashamed of becoming wealthy. Becoming wealthy is a part of living. You're able to do so many things, but I don't want you to rush to, because if I become wealthy, then I can give more. Don't rush to that, because as soon as you rush to that, what you're trying to do is you're trying to make a compromise. You're trying to say, building wealth is not okay unless it's so that I can give more. But wait a second. This is going to liberate you if you'll believe me. You got wealth by giving more. Understand? These companies that say they got to give back, Starbucks gives back, Walmart gives back, or whoever gives back, did they steal our money and that's why they're giving it back? No. So that's either a marketing ploy or this same confusion at work. Live your life honestly. Do your business honestly. Think of yourself as a steward of your life. Build and stack skills and then go out and offer those to the world and build up as much wealth as you can. If you want to. If you want to. Why do you have to want to? Because it actually takes a lot of work to build wealth. But I don't want you to think that you're not supposed to want to do that. You are created as a creator. You are created as a steward, a manager, a king over a kingdom under God. God is my God. Money is not my God. God is my God. Business is not my God. God is my God. I am not my God. God is my God. Approval is not my God. Status is not my God. Luxury items is not my God. None of those things are my God. But as a man, as a human, as a delegated authority on the earth, I am put here to build and to create. So 5 years ago, when I learned what I needed to learn to escape the cult and get out from under a spiritually abusive leader, this also unlocked this creation gene in me. I'm still a pastor, but I'm planting a small church, not through business means. I love business, but church is not a business. It's a church. It's different. I'll talk about that some other time. But I also have built a big ghostwriting business. I'm building this content creation business with my friend. And I may come up with another 50 things to do because I've been created in the image of God with a creative mind and a desire to build. Think about why you like a video game that's like that. You like to build, you like to level up, you like to increase your power. So, last thing I'll say is, why do we do this? For good. Not so that we can do good, but because it is doing good when we do it. If we do it honestly, if we do it the Lord's way, if we do it respectful and loving towards other people, if we do it honest. So I want you to be liberated from a mindset that makes you feel guilty about building wealth. If you've ever tried to rationalize doing something for yourself by saying, well, here's how it'll benefit other people, stop it. If you build wealth, it's going to benefit other people inherently. And then you can certainly give. It's fun to give. But don't make it so that you can give, because if that's all that mattered, you could just give now, right? So I'll stop there for now. But I have so much, it's so hard for me to stop because I want to talk. I could have a 5-hour video, so instead I'm just going to make a whole bunch. And also, we're building a course for not just learning the information, but how do you actually get it deep into your bones so that you behave differently by instinct. I want to help you with that, and I want to see if you're someone who might benefit from that. So down below you'll see a link to my calendar. If you'd be interested in talking to me, I would love to hear from you, because as I build this course, it really, really helps me to talk to real people so that I can see what your experience is, what your life has been like with money, where you're at right now, where you'd like to go, what might be the most helpful way for me to put some of this stuff in my course. We also have other videos, other articles. We're building a site called christianman.me. We're building a community. I'd love to see you there. For now, thanks for watching this, and have a great day.